episode 29.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. You must be prepared to ignite.
Struggling to get your business online? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. Now, here's your hosts, Michael and Teresa Blaze.
Welcome to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. I'm Michael, and I'm here with my wife and partner, Teresa.
Hello, everybody.
And what do we have for today, Teresa?
Well, we're doing one of those lovely interviews. We really want to make sure you guys get quality stuff going on. So we decided to drag up another interview for you, and this one is with the newsletter guru, Jim Palmer. And I'm not talking necessarily about email newsletters, although you need to have one. No, I'm talking about physical newsletters.
Which I think, most business owners probably don't even think about. They're thinking, I don't need to send out a newsletter. That's not that important. And Jim will tell you why it is.
Indeed. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about Mr. Palmer.
Okay, Jim is a marketing and business building expert and in-demand coach. He's the founder of the Dream Business Academy and the Dream Business Coaching and Mastermind program. He is the host of Newsletter Guru TV, the hit weekly web show watched by thousands of entrepreneurs and small business owners, and is also the host of Stick Like Glue Radio, a weekly podcast based on Jim's unique brand of smart marketing and business building strategies. Jim is best known internationally as the newsletter guru and the creator of Nohassle newsletters, the ultimate done-for-you newsletter marketing program used by hundreds of clients in 9 different countries. So with no further ado, here's Jim Palmer.
Well, Jim, it's a pleasure to have you on with us this morning. Welcome to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to this conversation. So, you are an eclectic sort of entrepreneur. I'm kind of thinking where to begin because, we could talk about a lot of different areas. I guess my first question to you is and I've asked this in a couple of different areas, what are the biggest marketing trends that you see going forward into 2017?
Biggest marketing trends of 2017. You said eclectic, so I'm going to go with something that most people are probably not talking about. I'm going to go with getting back in touch with your current customer base, the people who brought you to the party in the first place. There's another phrase I'm toying with, so I don't know when this is going to air, but I'm about 3 weeks from one of my events, and I'm working on a lot of my teaching notes and things. And one of the things I'm going to say is there's not an app for that. So I'm kind of old school. Just so for point of reference, I'm 58. I spent a lot of time in retail back when you had to actually write up the receipt. There was no scanning anything, and the register was really just an adding machine at that point. And one of the things I realized is that the stronger the connection that I had with our customers, the more value that those customers had. And so, we go all the way back to when I was 21 and I wrote my first newsletter, and that really played a big part in growing the bicycle store that I was running. And I carried the whole thing forward until when I was 41 and I struck out on my own and became the newsletter guru. That was that whole piece of it. But the underlying theme is that if people want to increase the profits and grow their business to become more profitable, they need to focus more on retention and not simply acquisition. Actually, I just thought of a thing I'll say. So if you were to ask me that question again, I would say in 2017, the new acquisition is retention. Make me sound smart.
I like that.
I actually do like that. So let's go there. How, assuming you put all this work into getting the customer, how do they then focus on keeping the customer?
Well, one of the greatest tools that everybody has available to them is the newsletter. And I know people go, oh, cool, I can say it for free. I'm talking about a paper and ink, print and mail newsletter. Because if you were to rely simply on email alone, back in the day when I started my e-zine about 8 or 9 years ago, I mean, if you got like a 15 or 20 or 25% deliverability rate, you were killing it, if you had a big list. And today it's like, man, if you get 5%, you're killing it. And what that means to people who really want to stay top of mind and have become more aware to their customers. So just for easy math, Michael and Teresa, let's say you have 1,000 customers and you want to send out a newsletter. Say, yep, Jim makes sense. Newsletters are great. I understand the whole relationship piece. But let's just do email. I'm not going to cut down a tree and I'm not going to invest in, a stamp and things like that. If you send out an email newsletter to 1,000 of your customers simply because of the spam filters and all the other hurdles that are put in your way, it's really probably about 900 or maybe 950 of your customers will not receive it. And that's not good. And so if you, unless your postman is the guy on Kramer who once in a while stocks his bag of letters behind his couch, every newsletter that you mail to your customers are going to go through. So every single customer, all 1,000, when they open up their mailbox, your newsletter will be there.
That is a really good point. You hear about the old school newsletters, and I know over time I've gotten some from different marketing organizations. But, you rarely ever see marketers take advantage of that. Small business, everything's encouraged. Oh, yeah, well, you need to go ahead and just do an email newsletter, and email newsletters are great. But, yeah.
You know why that is, by the way? So, this always used to be a favorite. I used to do a lot of speaking, and I'd be in front of a few hundred people, and that topic would come up, and I said, so by the way, you know why that is, right? And I said, I fear you're going to run me out of town, but I'm going to give it to you straight. It's because you're cheap. See, people don't want to invest, whether it's 60 cents or 80 cents or $1 a copy. They don't want to invest that. And I said, let me ask you this. First of all, how many people actually know what the average lifetime value of a customer is, of your customers? How many people know that number? And usually, Michael and Teresa, only about a third of the hands would go up.
Right.
Well, if you know that number, let's just say, and it can be wildly different. I do work with some financial planners, and they're like, it's worth $28,500, and then you might have another guy who says it's worth $7,500. But once you know that number, it gives you the ability. I think it kind of gives you marketing muscles, kind of the opposite of beer muscles. Drink a few beers, you get more strong suddenly. But if you start having success with a newsletter, now you're like, wow, I want to do more of this. It's exactly what happened to me when I mailed my very first newsletter. As much of a hunk of junk as it was, it's people started coming in and holding it. Oh, I didn't know you carried bike shorts and this and that. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so as a marketer, when you find something that works, what do? You do it again. And that's how how I get into it. But what I tell people is, and I actually have a program called Double My Retention. And the idea behind that program is when I started my company called Nohassle Newsletters, the average, about a year into it, the average member was staying about 6 months. And I'm like, I wonder why that is. In my head, it's a great program, but why are they only staying 6 months? And I really dove into it, and I started talking to people that were leaving and stuff. And one of the things I found out was that even though I make it really easy to get your newsletter done, people still, just because they're so darn busy, they weren't doing it at all. And on the, after 6 months of seeing the monthly fee on the credit card, they're going, well, I'm not using it, so I might as well unsubscribe. Had nothing to do with the effectiveness. So what I did is I added some more client support staff, and every time we get a new client, they get a phone call. Get that, a phone call from an actual person that actually welcomes them and answers their questions about what your business is, how can we help you, and then we actually help them get their first newsletter out. Because if they start getting some success and seeing some results with the thing that they've invested in, guess what? They stay longer. And so after doing this for about 2 years, my average retention went from 6 months to 12 months, and that's when when I did this little program called Double My Retention. I explained what I did. My average retention now, by the way, is 36 months. And so there's a number of things that I put in. And by the way, before I usually was delivered that line about being cheap, I would share this figure. Every time someone joins one of my programs or joins Nohassle newsletters, for example, I invest $42.80 into every single customer. And people go, oh my goodness, Jim, I've got 5,000 customers. I can't do. Well, okay, how many customers should I do that to? And I said, only the ones you want to keep, right? And so what I did is I set up a multi-step sequence. So immediately after they registered, they get the phone call. Then within a week, we send them a little gift, usually some cookies. I used to call them gratitude cookies. And then about 2 months after that, I'd send them a free copy of one of my books. And then we just keep going on. And all of that effort that I put into building that relationship has led my average retention to go literally where I started from 6 months up to 36 months. It's almost $3,000 more in revenue. So my question is, if you were to give me $42.80 and I give you, well, not $3,000, but $3,000 less whatever it was, let's say it's a $2,500 swing, would that be worth it to you? And obviously the answer is yes.
Yeah, it would. Well, the question then becomes, oh, okay, that's good for you. I mean, you have your market and all that, but will sending a physical newsletter, will it fit every market?
There's not a business on the planet that can't benefit from a monthly newsletter if it's done correctly. See, one of the reasons people will come to the conclusion that newsletters don't work, there's a few things. Number one, they announced their new monthly newsletter with fanfare. Hey, welcome, this is our new monthly newsletter. You know, we totally value our clients, and we're going to share each month some blah, blah, blah. And that's the whole opening article, right? And then, check this, the second monthly issue then gets mailed 3 months down the road. And then maybe they'll get the next one out. And then the next one is 6 months because every day there's a new fire to be put out. And so that that monthly newsletter in a course of a year might go out 3 or 4 times. And in my world, you shouldn't even bother with that. It's a monthly newsletter. Most people don't subscribe to magazines that they like for hobbies or things. They like to get those every single month. And guess what? They show up every single month like clockwork, literally on the same 1 or 2 days. They always mail the same time every month.
And what are some of the ingredients that make a well-done newsletter besides the consistency of the timing?
Well, here's the biggest clue I can give you. It's everything that your customer or client or patient, but I'll just use the word customer, everything your customer is interested in, not what you are interested in or what you think they might want to read. So a lot of businesses, they'll like to put in, well, meet Betty. She's our new gal in accounting, and we'd like to share that we just won an award for our local association for our great driving record or whatever it is. They think that's news about the company. In reality, if you're asking your customer to give up, say, 10 minutes of their time to read your newsletter every month and you waste their time with stuff like that, they're not going to read it. So what I tell people is there's 2 types of content. There's relevant content and non-relevant content. The relevant content has to do with your business. So I like to tell people to put in a success story, how your company has worked with another customer solving a problem or whatever it is you do, and you tell it in a story format. Versus doing like a featured product of the month. You tell a story of how you've helped somebody, and really the rest of the newsletter, for the most part, if it's just like a 2 or 4 page, are short little articles that are of interest to your reader, because the clue is the newsletter is really a touch point. It's meant to keep your name top of mind. So when people are ready to either rebuy or when they're ready to refer, your name will be top of mind.
So in your experience, as far as a newsletter for a small business owner, how big should that newsletter be?
It should be either 2-page or 4-page. A 4-page is 11 by 17 folded to 8.5 by 11. That's a 4-page newsletter. That's what I would say about 80% of the newsletters that are customer relationship style newsletters. Most of those are 4-page.
So, okay, let's say, for example, Mike and I were going to start a newsletter. Because I've looked at your Nohassle newsletter site. That was kind of one of the ones that I looked at, before starting this interview. would it be a good idea because of our target market being entrepreneurs, so on and so forth, to include, say, an article on marketing or something that either we wrote or we found?
Absolutely. And see, here's the thing. Most people are only focused on what's important to them. So let's say you had a client who needed help, I don't know, with a website. You could pick any one of the number of services I'm sure you probably provide. When you get a client, when any business gets a new customer, they do so by way of a single initial transaction. So whether your marketing worked or somebody referred you in, somebody says at whatever point, I trust you, I find value in what you're selling, I want to buy this, or I want to hire you to do this. And you do that. Now, the question I always ask is, whose job is it to learn about all the other ways that you can help somebody? In other words, what are all the other things that your company offers that your current customers who only know you maybe for one or two things, it's that newsletter that's going to do that. And that's why the success story is so good, because everybody that reads that every single month is figuring they're doing that thing where you go, oh, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know they worked with those people. I didn't know they offer SEO, or I didn't know they did article marketing, or all these different things. They only know you for what they initially came to you for.
Right.
Interesting. Very interesting. And how much on average does it cost you to send a newsletter?
Well, that's a slightly difficult question because it's all based on the size of the mailing list. So if you had, say 200 people, or if you had 2,000 people, it could vary from $1.50 to down to 80 cents or 70 cents. Because really, when you're printing, once you set up the printer or the machine that's going to run them off and inkjet the names and things like that, to run 200 probably takes 2 hours. To run 2,000 probably takes 2 hours and 5 minutes. So it's really just a function of adding paper. So there are prices at my website, which will give you an idea, but it really varies depending on the size of the mailing list.
So, okay, now we've talked about a physical newsletter. Should you, with that physical newsletter, also have an email list as well? And if you do, what would be the difference, and how would you use it differently?
So what I recommend is that you mail a monthly print newsletter and you do an email newsletter once a week, because they both complement each other. You can actually move people from your email list to your print newsletter and vice versa. And they're slightly different animals, although they have the same kind of the same theme, which is enhancing and building stronger relationships. But you're not going to put all the content you'd put in a 4-page newsletter in an e-zine because people won't read it. People will not read large documents online like that, especially if it's in your email window. I mean, what I said, someone would challenge me, well, they read Kindles. Well, that's different. You're sitting in your easy chair with your Kindle reader, but people are not going to spend 20 minutes or 10 minutes trying to scroll through an email when there's 50 other emails waiting to be clicked on. So I think an email newsletter is quite different. You should probably be able to get through that in 3 to 5 minutes at the most. And one of the ways to do that, you could actually put several articles, but you have the title, you have an accompanying picture, and then maybe you have the opening paragraph, and you say, click here to read the rest of this interview. And that way you don't have a 300-word interview like taking literally about a foot of space on your monitor vertically, if you know what I'm saying. You could actually,
Right.
if they click it, they'll go to your blog, and that's where they're going to read the full article. How cool would that be if they're now on your blog, on your website?
Right. And that's kind of what. So you're saying, so you think it should be a physical newsletter and then an email once a week. What about ad placement within the different properties? Do you have any tips for that? Because
I do not put ad. See, a newsletter is not a place. Did you mean like paid advertising type thing?
No, well, no. Like, let's say you have a new for the person who is doing auto repair, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they decide to within their newsletter, they decide to run a special for their newsletter clients or for their newsletter customers to try and get them to come back into the store. Would you recommend something like that?
I am 100% against that. because the newsletter should be it should be fun, friendly, informative, and entertaining. It should not be salesy in any way. But alas, there is a way to do it, and it's called a freestanding insert. So if you had a 4-page newsletter that was all fun, interesting, and articles, the insert, which is just a separate sheet of paper that kind of falls out if you were to open it and hold it upside down, a freestanding insert is what you can promote something on. It's interesting that a freestanding insert, which is technically part of the newsletter, but it's enough not actually part of the newsletter that you could do some selling, whether it's a promotion or an event or something like that. You can definitely do that on a freestanding insert, but not in the body of the newsletter itself.
Okay. What other methods of marketing do you use besides newsletter promotion?
For my own business?
For your own business or for clients that you've worked with?
Yeah, I teach something called the $1 Million Platform, and that includes everything from direct mail, which includes newsletters, but also postcards, sales letters, to email marketing, e-zines, all forms of social media, video marketing, book writing, speaking, and doing interviews like this. I think I'm leaving off about 3 things, but it is very much an all of the above menu. The thing that really separates, and usually when I teach that, a lot of people, their eyes will glaze over, and, well, I don't have time to do all that. And I said, well, that's fine. You can do as much as you want. But what I'm telling you is if you look at really highly successful businesses, if you look at everything they're doing, they are doing all of those things. Mm-hmm. One of the questions I try and kind of excise out of my clients is, can I just? If you say, can I just, you're already limiting what you want to be able to do. And I get it. Everybody's busy. I'm busy too. I've got like 5 different businesses plus my coaching and live events and things like that. So yeah, but you have to prioritize what's really important. And what's really important to me, what I spend most of my time on, is A, working with my clients, and B, marketing my business. And I have a team of people that I've delegated all the other internet businesses to.
I see. And how do you when you talk about client retention versus marketing, because a lot of people are going, dude, I barely have enough energy, I'm burning both ends of the stick here. How do I balance dealing with clients, putting out the fires versus marketing my company?
Well, first of all, delegation, and a lot of things I'm going to be saying are things that do require an investment. So I get that, and that's really kind of what holds a lot of people back. And I have a term for that. It's called a when I. So people that say, I will do more Facebook marketing when I'll mail a newsletter when I will hire some assistants when I'll work with a coach when I is always putting what you want to do kind of off into the distance until something happens. And really, if you look at very successful businesses, large, small, or anywhere in between, those people actually they step up and make the investment to speed up the results that they want to have. I do believe you can purchase speed in the growth of your business. 2 examples in my own business was I think about 2007 or 8, when Nohassle Newsletters was really about 6 months old. I had an opportunity to go to a national marketing conference and exhibit my services in front of probably about 1,500 small business owners who I thought would be a very prime audience. But it was like going to be a $7,500. It was $5,000 just for the booth space, just for that little piece of 10 by 10 carpet with the curtains on it. And that means you know what I mean? And I had to then build. I didn't have a professional display. I had to do that. I actually made my own flight ticket and hotel. It was a $7,500 investment. And at the time, my cash flow said, you probably shouldn't do this. Well, I ponied up the money. I borrowed it. And I actually came back with about $5,000 worth of orders. So I didn't even break even. But over that course of that next 6 months to a year, I definitely got new clients out of that single event that turned. And that proved to be a turning point for me. And so people who are not growing as fast as they want, it could either be their branding and positioning is not correct, and if that's correct, it means they're not spending what they need to spend. And by spending, I'm going to correct my language. They're not investing what they need to invest to put themselves in front of the right audience.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, we're members of a couple of local chambers here, and we have a database of not they're not customers because they haven't purchased anything from us. Would that be another market? Would that be another place to put a physical newsletter, or do you think that's more of a waste of time?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, there's three legs to that whole stool. What is the message you want to portray, and who's it going to? So that's the market message match. Is the media that you're going to put that in front of? Is that even the best place? So let me think of an odd example. So let's say you were marketing specifically to women entrepreneurs for home-based businesses. The last thing you want to do is put an ad in Men's Journal or Men's Health. I mean, that's kind of an extreme, obvious one, but you know what I mean? You could have the best message in the world, but if it's not reaching your target audience, like right now, I'm spending a fair amount of money marketing my conference, and I'm only spending it like through Facebook ads and things like that. I'm only putting those ads in front of entrepreneurs and small business owners, and actually by the end of this week, I will then because right now I'm doing the whole country, and beginning Monday, I'm only going to be doing about a 3-hour radius of Orlando where my event is, because I figure at that point, people probably aren't going to pony up for an airline ticket, but they might drive 3 hours to attend the event. Right. So that's exactly what I mean about tailoring the right message to the right people, and doing it in the correct way. Now, when I started my first business in 2001, I at one point I was a member of 13 chambers, and registration ranged from $200 a year to $400 a year. So I was really putting out some money. What I kind of figured out, I think a lot of people do that to start out, but then you get to a certain level, and depending on what your service or your business is, it wasn't my case, I started to outgrow the typical audience that was in a chamber of commerce. So as I looked to work with bigger clients, and no disrespect, but what I was starting to see at most of the networking events I was going to is there was bankers, financial planners, insurance people selling insurance, and that type of thing. I was trying to look for companies that, were maybe doing $5 million a year and had a staff and things like that, but yet not big enough that they had their own marketing. That was my sweet spot, and those people were not attending chamber lunches.
Right, right. So you talk about one of the areas that you do is live events. Can you talk about that? I mean, apparently, you seem to have done a few of them, correct? Would I be correct?
My sixth one is coming up in 3 weeks in Orlando.
Do you have any? I mean, first of all, why should a entrepreneur consider attending a live event or doing a live event?
Well, first of all, they should consider doing them if it's going to put you in front of the right people again. And there's a couple different models. I know some people who give away tickets for free just to put a bunch of people in the room, and then every hour on the hour they put up a different speaker that's selling something, and that's how they'll get a piece of the pie. I don't do that. I call mine a pitch-free zone. So people do invest in a ticket, but it's 3 days of learning, of me teaching you exactly how I've grown multiple six-figure businesses, exactly how I market with my $1 million platform and things like that. So you actually walk away with a blueprint of how to do that. But by the same token, I don't market those services to CEOs, for example. They're not going to come and learn from me. I specifically work and I target entrepreneurs and small business owners. I work with beginners, and my largest coaching client does $40 million, but most of them are probably $3 to $5 million or below. So I know exactly who that audience is. So why would somebody come to an event like that? Because there's a thing, a lot of people say, I read 5 books a month, or even if you read 1 book a month, it's a great way to take in knowledge. And I'm 100% for information and education, but it's kind of a slow way to learn. So let's say you read a book a month and you learn something, then you're going to try and do it yourself. Like Facebook, when Facebook marketing came out, being the kind of personality, I tried to do it myself. I probably whittled away $2,000, and then I hired somebody who knows what they're doing. But I wanted to know it, so I learned it. And now what I say is you can purchase speed. Once I figured out that, I just don't have the bandwidth, I don't have the time to go in there and master it myself, and nor should I be doing it, I then hired somebody who really knew how to do it and put that into place. That's really the goal of when you go to a live event. So I think the two sides of the spectrum are you could drink from a water fountain, which might be kind of book, or you can drink from a fire hose, which would be like going to a live event. You're just taking so much information in a short period of time. And I've literally attended hundreds of seminars. My goal is not to come home with 52 pages of notes. I do take some good notes, but I'm always looking before I get on that plane, what's the one or two, maybe three at the most, elegant ideas that I heard? What one or two things can I implement in my business that'll prove to be game changers? That's what I'm looking for. And the other thing about live events, you get to interact with other like-minded people. I put a lot of networking space into my events because people, they become friends. I've seen people within my dream business community that do business with each other. So it's really good that way. And, I forget who said it. It might have been Bill Glazer once said that being an entrepreneur is the loneliest job on the planet because most people are working by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Boy,
I would agree with that.
Truth. Oh, man.
That is definitely truth there. So, all right, so we've covered newsletters. We've covered live events. What else? If you had to narrow it down to one last thing that you think the entrepreneur should be doing to move their business forward regarding purchasing speed, as you put it, what do you think they should be doing?
There's something I write in my latest book is called Decide the Ultimate Success Trigger, and I describe it as a 3 a.m. holy crap moment. And that is, you're a small business owner. It's 3 a.m. You should be sleeping soundly, but your eyes are wide awake. You're looking up at the dark ceiling. You're going, holy crap. I don't know if I can make payroll this week. Holy crap, I haven't had a new client in 6 months. Holy crap, I haven't paid myself and I own the dang business. And all these holy crap moments. And at that point, what I encourage everybody to do is to get out of bed, go in, look in the bathroom mirror, and you say to that person who's looking back at you, why are you holding me back? Because all the people that I work with through my coaching program, yes, there are things we can do to change their brand, their positioning. We can create great marketing and great taglines. But in the end, even with all of that, you're not going to achieve high levels of success if you don't have your mindset correct. If you've got limiting thoughts on either what you're worth or your ability, if you have money issues, like I actually dealt with that about 2 weeks ago with one of my clients whose business is starting to boom, and she's having cash flow issues because people are taking too long to pay her. When we really dug deep down, she actually said, we kind of figured out this problem started occurring when she significantly started raising her prices. Now, mind you, we started really pushing her prices up, and it didn't slow sales, but there was a little thing going on which she kind of felt, I don't know if I'm worth $3,000 when I used to be charging $1,200 for that same service. So there's all kinds of things, but I guess the nub of it, Michael and Teresa, is a lot of what holds people back is what's between the ears, and that's really why my book it's my bestseller for sure.
I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I am definitely looking forward to getting a hold of it.
Definitely.
And Jim, I can talk from personal experience on that. For a long time, I have suffered with the whole fear of success, fear of failure thing, and I have a tendency, if I'm not real careful, if I don't discipline myself, then I will deliberately procrastinate and kind of sabotage my own success. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about there. I'm definitely
and that's what that is. When you boil it, and people kind of say, well, it's a fear-based thing, and that's true. That's really at the root of most of this. But if you were to peel the onion back a little bit, and I helped somebody write their first book earlier, or actually later last year, because now we're in a new year. But when there was getting to a point where it felt like she was starting to drag her heels a little bit. And I'm like, what's going on? You're such a great writer. And long story short, she had some real reservations about pulling the trigger and finishing the book, because then she would be a published author. And what's my family going to think? What's my parents going to think? What are my neighbors and friends and longtime associates going to think? Oh, look at you. You're an author. Who do you think you are? Now, I doubt anybody would say that, but that was some of the I call it head trash, that was holding her back. The other thing which holds people back from doing things like that, whether it's video or interviews, is this fear of not being perfect. and that prevents a lot of people from taking action. And I'll tell you what, inaction and indecisiveness are business killers. So one of the strategies that I teach is, and this isn't easy, but it becomes easier with practice. You have to choose, let me phrase it, you have to decide that you're going to choose to be judged on the quality of the content and the information that you're sharing and the value that you're providing, and not the imperfect way in which you provide it, because nobody is perfect.
Can you repeat that? I mean, that's just gold right there.
That's profound.
Okay, so first of all, you have to make a decision that you are going to choose to be judged on the value of the content and the information and the service that you're providing, and not the imperfect way in which you do it. Because I'm raising my hand right now. I'm about as close to imperfect as they come. I know for a fact I've probably had some really bad grammar, mangled my thoughts a little bit even on this interview. I know every single book, even though I use professional editors, as soon as you push the go button and that book's now for sale, somewhere in that book I've put SON instead of SUN. I've misplaced a comma or something, and believe it or not, I don't even have to hire editors, because everybody that buys the book is an editor, and they're going to they will actually gleefully email you and say, "Hey Jim, on page 137, I think you got a screw up." You know what I mean? So, but that's okay, because you know why? Those books, all 6 books, are helping me build an incredible business, as imperfect as they are.
Well, talking about books, and why? Okay, let's put it this way. You talk about books. You say you've written about 6 books. Why should someone consider writing a book? I mean, let's say you've done all this. You have a newsletter. I mean, you're already writing stuff in print. You're doing live events. You've got an email newsletter. Why should I bother with a book?
There's no better positioning tool for an entrepreneur. And let me tell you something else, and it'll help make that clear. You will earn significantly more money for who you are compared to what you do. So it is not about, in 99% of the cases, Michael and Teresa, it's not about the deliverable. It's not about the actual service that you provide. You will earn more money for who you are. If people perceive you to be the expert, the go-to authority, that's why I branded myself the newsletter guru. I never went to school for writing. I never went to school and took one art design class. I was self-taught on desktop publishing and all of that. But I knew, because I had learned this strategy of anointing yourself, and you have to come up with some sort of a name which signifies, wow, that person knows more about that than anybody. Well, guess who does that? You do it. You call it. You anoint yourself. You don't go out and spend $50 million on higher education so you can put a whole alphabet after your name, which most people have no clue what it means anyway. So That's how I became the newsletter guru. And when I got into the coaching business in 2008, I figured, if you want to have a business, why not have a dream business that provides your dream lifestyle? So that's all my branding is dream this and dream that. And I mean, it's true. I believe I'm really good at what I do, but there's a lot of coaches that coach. But you know what? Dan Kennedy, my greatest mentor, said, "Hey, Jim's really good. If you're going to create a business, why not create a dream business?" I mean, that was really a great day for me.
Oh man,
That's pretty high praise right there.
Mm-hmm. Our branding is online. They call us the 2 blind marketers, and I don't know if that's. Sometimes I wonder if that's a detraction or if that's a ad, because what we kind of play off of that, and we help you see we help you see the holes in your marketing, or we help you uncover the holes in your marketing. Sometimes
blind spots in your marketing,
Yeah, the blind spots. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know. I got to think about that. I always will share my initial gut reaction with you if you want. I assume you told me because do you want my opinion, or do you just want to go to the next question?
Absolutely.
No.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Sometimes I think people can be too cute by half, as the expression is. And here's what I think is really important for a name of a company and the tagline. A name and a tagline go hand in hand. So the name pretty much says who you are, what you do, and should really signify what the service is. And then the tagline really clarifies that. 2 blind marketers. So can I assume are you two blind?
Yes.
Because I didn't know that, but I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I picked that up. Okay, well that's good. And so, yeah. Now, do you have an official tagline or not?
We help you uncover the blind spots in your marketing.
Yeah, I think we probably should work on that. And actually, when I think of people that have whether hearing impaired or visually impaired or something like that, you probably know this better than anybody, but aren't the rest of your senses like highly, I don't know what the right word is, highly charged or highly effective?
They're more acute, yeah.
Yeah. So, that it's good to sometimes play off of what might be a perceived weakness, if you will. So you hear things, you're aware of things. I don't know. There might be a way to use that. I'm not saying it's bad, but I think there's probably a way. The other thing I think is really important, and I don't know what your background is, but you should have something that you can hang your hat on. In other words, what have you done that you can point to and people go, oh, yeah, I like that. Can you do that for me? I don't know what your past is, if you've owned your own businesses or.
Oh, yeah. We've done eBay. We've done website design, that kind of thing.
Okay. So
about every multi-level company on the planet.
So within each of those areas, you would want to look for something that you did better than somebody else, whether you had a bigger one-day take, whether you figured out how to lower your cost per click, whatever it is, there should be something. And by the way, that's an attention getter, attraction type of thing. Everything else builds off of that. But there should be one thing that that you would be best known for. Anyway, that would be my advice today.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hey, so where can people go get your latest book?
Well, I'd like to actually give a free copy to all your listeners, if that would be okay.
You know what? That would be wonderful.
So if they refuse free and they want to pay, they could get the book at Amazon. But if they want to get a free copy, we will ship and mail your book within 24 to 48 hours, depending on if it's a weekend or not. Decideforsuccessbook.com, decideforsuccessbook.com, and it's about 100. I think it's 184 pages. You'll either love or hate this book, and if you hate it, it's because it's the medicine you need to hear, and then you'll love it later. But it'll cost $6.95. Shipping and handling is the only thing we'll ask, and I'll even ship it internationally if you're listening to this somewhere other than the States. Well,
Jim, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I think I could probably pick your brain all day, but then we wouldn't get anything else done. So,
thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and we look forward to having you back again.
Anytime, just let me know, and I'm happy to come on your program.
All right, that's great, man. So, with that, go get his book. That is decideforsuccessbook.com, and with that, you've been listening to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. I'm Teresa.
And I'm Michael.
And we're out.
You've been listening to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. To catch all our past shows, visit sbppodcast.com.